As we go through our course, let me just remind you of the accompanying assignment. Huwag niyong kakalimutan yung inyong pagbabasa, inyong meditation of the letter of Paul to the Philippians. At ang sistema ng pagbabasa chapters 1 to 4, binabasa natin ng buo. It would take you less than 15 minutes, no? Sa slow reading, 15 minutes. So siguro meron tayong panahon, no, na mai-set apart dito sa pag-aaral ng Philippians. So all we do is in one sitting, babasahin po natin yung 4 chapters ng sulat na ito. This is followed by the second day, kung saan gano'n na naman ang ating gagawin. Chapters 1 to 4, and so forth and so on. At ang sistema na ito, no, I believe, would enable us to better comprehend yung nasusulat po dito. Minsan sa isang pasadahan, hindi natin nauunawaan ng lubusan ang ating binabasa. And it would take several readings para ating lubusang maunawaan yung nasusulat. And we have to read it again and again. Repetitious. We read by books and we read repetitiously. Now, the previous lesson, no, ating natunghayan ang dalawang napakahalagang guiding principles sa pag-interpret ng Biblia. Ito yung principle of genre at saka yung principle of one meaning. And it is my hope that you have taken the time na ma-process ninyo ang yung mga principles na ating napag-aralan. And in this lesson, ating pag-aaralan ang tatlo pang additional lessons. Okay? And the first one would be the principle of literal interpretation. And this is quite simple. We ought to read literally. In other words, pag sinabing literal, uunawain natin in its natural sense. We should not try too hard to uncover some mysterious meaning, some hidden meaning, while overlooking its most obvious meaning. Nasabi natin no, na kadalasan may mga estudyante ng Biblia na hukay ng hukay. They disregard the obvious meaning and try to look for some hidden meanings. Ang problema po doon may na-uncover. But we wonder kung yun ang intensyon ng manunulat. Baka naman na ito produkto lamang ng kanyang imahinasyon. Nonetheless, no, itong ating pinag-aaralan na principle ay napakahalaga, no? For the most part, or as a general principle, no, do not try so hard to uncover some mysterious meaning while overlooking its most obvious meaning. Read literally. Read in its most normal sense. May nagsabi, if the literal sense makes good sense, be careful not to make it nonsense. That's quite humorous as well, no? We try to uncover some mysterious meaning. Ang kinakalabasan ay kung ano-anong mga mga messages or meanings ang ating na-uncover. And this is more imposition rather than exposition. Ito ay pilit, ito ay pinasak, no? Doon sa teksto, hindi hango sa teksto. Once again, if the literal sense makes good sense, be careful not to make it nonsense. Okay? Notice here, a text should not be taken literally if there are signposts that tell you if the passage is not to be taken in its literal sense. Nangangahulugan, bahagi ng normal na pangunawa at normal conversation, yung paggamit ng mga matalinhagang mga salita. Hindi mo ba? Sa common everyday communication, we make use of, for instance, mga idiomatic expressions. Tama po ba? You know, these things are not to be taken literally. Minsan nga, ang signpost dyan is that of common sense. Just seeking to realize, no, na itong mga figures of speech, idiomatic expressions ay bahagi ng everyday conversation. At maging sa unang kapanahunan, meron ding mga ganyan, no? At ang kagandahan naman dito ang mga passages, no, kung saan merong mga signposts, no? Binabalaan tayo even beforehand. No, for instance, Jesus Christ would say, this is a parable. Or sinasabi ng manunulat, no, sa narrative, for instance, the Gospel of Matthew. At si Matthew ay nagsasabi na nagsasalita o nagtuturo ang Panginoon in parables. So yun pa lang, that statement itself should make you realize na itong mga sasabihin ni Jesus Christ, no, ay marami rito merong dalang figures of speech. Kaya hindi dapat kuning literal. But even tandaan po natin, even figures of speech, merong tinatawag na literal implications. Hindi ba? May ibig sabihin na literal. Kaya again, for the most part, no, we ought to take things literally. Meron po diyang sa inyong mga notebooks, may mga samples of figures of speech, no, na hango mula sa Biblia. And I would be showing you some of these, explaining to you some of these, pero you may want to hit the pause button para inyong mabasa itong iba-ibang mga halimbawa ng figures of speech sa Biblia. Of course, sa inyong mga aklat, no, mga suggested readings, merong mga aklat na nag-e-explain kung ano-ano yung mga figures of speech na iyan, no? And it would also be helpful na malaman natin itong mga figures of speech na ito. But more than just identifying kung anong figures of speech yan, mahalaga rin na maunawaan natin yung sense. Yung sense ng kino-convey nitong mga figures of speech na ito. We would make a sense out of these passages of Scripture. For instance, no, bigyan ko kayong halimbawa. Ito ay nasa sa inyong notebooks, no, as part of the examples, no. Matthew chapter 16 verse 18. Ito pong sinasabi. And I tell you that on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. Ayan. So that is a familiar passage of Scripture. Hindi ho ba? At makakakita tayo ng katagang rock. Notice that. Rock. And it seems na itong rock na ito ay hindi yung maliit na rock. Minsan kapag nakita tayo ng maliit na bato, minsan tinatawag din natin yung rock. But in this case, no, ang rock dito is one massive foundation, malaking rock, upon which we can build a structure, no? At alam naman natin kung gaanong kahalaga ang pundasyon, no, sa isang gusali. And in this case, sinasabi niya na ang kanyang magiging iglesia, the church that he would build, yung iglesyang kanyang itataguyod, naka-build, no, nakatayo sa isang massive rock, isang massive foundation. Ayan, no? So yan ang tinutukoy ni Jesus Christ. And yung foundation na yon ay makikita natin sa konteksto. Matapos i-declare ni Apostle Peter, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Doon sinabi ng ating Panginoong Jesus, no? I tell you that on this rock, I will build my church. So, kung ita-tie up natin, no, ang massive rock, ang foundation ng iglesia, napapaloob doon sa statement na sinabi ni Pedro that Jesus Christ is, sabi niya, is the Christ, the anointed one, the Son of the living God or God Himself. Doon itatayo, no? The followers of Jesus Christ, which is the church, no, nakatayo doon sa statement na iyon, yung ating pananampalataya sa persona at gawa ng ating Panginoon ang siyang nagsisilbing massive foundation ng iglesia. At mapapansin nyo rin, no, yung katagang gates. Gates. Ayan, gates of Hades. Or yung Hades, yan yung place of the dead. We can say death. Ayan, no? Diyan pumupunta ang mga kaluluwa, no, ng mga namatay. No. At sabi rito, the gates of Hades or Hades will not overcome it. So, alam naman natin, no, na Jesus Christ is not talking in literal terms. Right? Itong gates, wala namang gate ang place of the dead. Itong grave o ito sometimes we can call it hell itself, no? Where the dead goes into. No? Pero sa dahilang ang gate, no, ang gate it secures, it secures those who are inside and prevents those outside from coming in. Mukhang ang pinapahiwatig ng ating Panginoon, itong iglesia is an advancing force. Nag-a-advance ang mga followers of Jesus Christ, declaring the gospel message, proclaiming the gospel message, at sa pamamagitan ng kanyang buhay at ng kanyang mensahe, they snatch people. Sila ay kumukuha ng mga kaluluwa na naroroon sa loob ng Hades, no? He's not actually talking about people who have died, but people who are still alive, very much alive. Subalit, hindi ba, no? Sa dahilang ang mga tao ay nasa sa kanilang kasalanan, they are overpowered by sin. They are in the dominion of death. At ano pong ginagawa ng mga disipulo? Anong ginagawa natin bilang mga followers of Jesus Christ? We get them out of that place, no? That sphere of death. Kaya ang Hades, the grave itself, will not overcome this advancing force. Ayan. Now, I hope I have made sense of this passage kung saan makakakita tayo ng ilang mga figures of speech tulad ng rock, upon which the church is built, and the gates of Hades. Ayan, na siyang hindi makakapagpigil sa iglesia na pumasok, to penetrate at kunin ang mga tao na napapaloob dito sa sphere of death. Let me share with you some other examples. And this time, I would simply give you some clues, but I want you to later on, no, sa pagpakita ko ng passage at pagbigay ng ilang mga clues that you would discuss among yourselves, or write your thoughts on this figure of speech. Tingnan natin itong Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. Sabi po rito, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Ayan, no? So, notice that, no? What's quite interesting in this passage ay yung statement ng ating Panginoon na hindi raw siya naparito in order to bring peace. That may make us scratch our heads, hindi ba? Akala ko ba may kapayapaan kay Kristo? Bakit sabi niya, "I did not come to bring peace on earth"? So, ang tatanong natin dito, ano bang uring peace ang kanyang pinag-uusapan? Certainly, He promised us internal peace. But could He be talking about external peace? Nangangahulugan, no? Itong peace or unity or harmony ng iba't ibang mga human relationships. We see that in context, no? Pero ito ngayon, ito yung figure of speech. Sabi niya, "I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Now, again, in context, no? Mukhang hindi literal na sword ang pinag-uusapan. Bagkus he is using this term, no, to describe something, no, that tells us, that conveys yung kanyang sinasabi na I did not come to bring peace. So, what is it about a sword? Ano yung pinag-uusapan niya dyan sa sword? Minsan kailangan nating tingnan ang characteristics ng sword. Ano ba yung characteristic na idinidiin dito? Hindi lahat ng characteristics ng sword. Ano ba? Is it the shiny? Yung shine ng sword, is that what he's talking about? Yung talas ba ng sword? Ano bang pinag-uusapan tungkol sa sword? And what is its relationship with that of peace among human relations? As I've said, hit that pause button para inyong pagbulay-bulayan ang maaring meaning nitong figure of speech na ito. Let's turn to the next. Psalm 91. Interesting na it's found in the Psalms. Diba? Bakit? Ito is signpost agad. Kapag ang genre mo ay poetry, sound, alam mo na kaagad, ang aasahan natin, matalinhaga ang mga salita, hindi ho ba? Kapag tayo'y bumabasa ng mga tula o ng mga awit, punong-puno ng flowery words, no? Mga colorful words, mga matalinhagang mga salita, no? At this is a pouring out of human emotion, happiness, sadness. So yan po yung isa sa mga signposts, no? When we read poetry such as the Psalms, aasahan nyo maraming mga figures of speech. So let me read to you Psalm 91, verse 4. "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and your rampart." So, once again, makikita natin na ang Panginoong Diyos, no, is being described as one like a bird, no, na may feathers and wings, no? At tulad ng ang mga chicks niya, no, yung mga anak niya napapailalim sa kanyang wings, no, sa kanyang pakpak. At doon siya nakakahanap ng security. Parang ganon yung imagery dito. Hindi ho ba? Ng Panginoon at ang relasyon niya sa kanyang mga sa kanyang mga anak. Sabi po rito, His faithfulness will be your shield and your rampart. So there we see a number of figures of speech. feathers, wings, shield. Ito naman, panangga, rampart. In what ways? Gusto kong itanong sa inyo, no? Ano ang kino-convey nitong mga figures of speech na ito tungkol sa Diyos? Because the psalmist, is talking about God. What about the shield? What about the wings and the feathers? What about the rampart? Iyon. Kailangan po nating malaman, no? Yung kino-convey na mga meanings nito. Once again, hit the pause button, no? And try to write down your thoughts, no? Tungkol dito sa passage of scripture na ito. Another example, Matthew chapter 5 verse 29. Ito, wag niyo pong gagawing literal. I hope you don't take this literally. Sabi po rito, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. I hate to think, no, na kung ito ay kukuning literal ng isang tao, mapapahamak siya. Dahil tatanggalin niya ang iba't ibang mga bahagi ng kanyang katawan, ang kanyang mata, ang kanyang kamay. If our eyes, and in fact, when we move on to the other passage, it talks about the hand. Puputulid daw natin yon. Again, no? Ito paggamit din ng common sense, no? Ano ba ang tinutukoy dito ng ating Panginoon? If we look at the context, ang kanyang pinag-uusapan dito yung attitude ng isang mananampalataya, no? Isang kingdom citizen doon sa kanyang kasalanan. We all know that sin will always be part of our lives, even as believers. Hindi po ba? You know? Pero what makes us, or what differentiates us from other people? Sabi ng ating Panginoon, it is our attitude towards sin. Ano ba dapat ang maging attitude natin? Ayan. Try to figure that out. Ano yung cut it off? Ano yung gouge it out? No? A clue would be the type of figure of speech. Ang tawag po rito ay hyperbole, o a deliberate exaggeration for the purpose of emphasis. So, try to understand, no, what the meaning, no, of this passage is. Ano yung sense na kino-convey nitong figures of speech o figure of speech na ito. Okay? So, papansin natin, no, na kailangan na maging sensitibo tayo sa mga signposts. Signposts that tell us that a passage should not be taken literally. As a general principle, a rule of thumb, the Bible ought to be understood in its normal sense, no? In its literal sense. Pero abangan natin, no, yung mga figures of speech that is part of normal conversation or normal literature. Sabi rin po rito, another principle or lesson na kailangan din natin isa-isip, a text should not be taken literally if the meaning would be contrary to other portions of Scripture. This is especially true in passages using anthropomorphic language. Kung ang passage daw, no, kunyari yung literal meaning, kung kukunin nating literal itong bagay na ito, at ang magiging meaning ay contrary to other portions of Scripture, then mukhang hindi literal. Mukhang hindi natin kukuning literally. But chances are, the passage is talking in a figurative sense, no? So sabi po rito, this is especially true using anthropomorphic language. Ano po ba yung anthropomorphic? Ito yung mga kapamaraanan, no, ng pag-describe sa Diyos na para siyang tao. Kasi ang Diyos, according to the Bible, ay spirito. At ang spirito, walang form, hindi ba? Walang wangis. Kaya there are times, when the writers of Scripture would describe God in human form, or sa pamamaraanan, no, na mabivisualize natin siya na para siyang tao. Pero hindi siya tao. This is save the fact, of course, that God came down to earth in human form. Let's set that aside first. Pero God Himself is spirit and has no form. Pero isn't it that the Bible sometimes describes Him as having eyes that look to and fro? Di ba? O kaya having hands. No? So He is likened to a person. So He is being described in anthropomorphic language. I hope you understand, no, itong passage na ito. Pero itong sinasabi natin, no. However, having said this, no, the general rule is for us to take things literally. When the literal meaning is contrary to other passages of Scripture, then it is not to be taken literally. Or another lesson, no, that or principle that we should we should be aware of, dito sa principle of literal interpretation is a text should not be taken literally if the meaning would be absurd. Again, common sense, no? Ano bang isang halimbawa nito? For instance, no, in the Psalms, sinasabi na God is our rock and our fortress. Now, do we imagine God as a rock? Is He a rock? Of course, we don't take that literally. First of all, the signpost is that it is in the Psalms, no? Ang genre nito ay poetry. So, signpost yan. Pero bukod dyan, if we are to take this literally, that God is a rock, again, that would be absurd. Di ba? So, sometimes common sense, no, would tell us that the passage should not be taken literally.